She thought it was just tiredness, a few yawns, a little forgetfulness. But what she didn't know, and what most people over 60 still don't, is that the brain has its own way of warning us when something's wrong. And when those warnings are ignored, the risk of memory loss, elderly confusion, and early Alzheimer's grows quietly, right under our noses. In this video, I'll show you the real early signs of dementia, the ones that doctors often miss and families usually dismiss. You're going to learn how a single yawn, a pause at the closet, or forgetting where the sugar is can point to hippocampus damage. You'll understand how spatial disorientation works, why seniors get lost in familiar places, and what normal fatigue could actually mean when it's your brain that's tired, not your body. We'll uncover the subtle patterns behind cognitive decline and how you can protect brain health with the right attention at the right time. If you've been told it's just aging, this video is your wake-up call. Because not all memory decline is natural, and not all forgetfulness in elderly is harmless. The difference between noticing in time or too late could mean whether your loved one remembers your name next year. So pay close attention. What you're about to learn might be the exact reason your mother, your father, or even you still have time to stop this from getting worse. The yawn that meant more than fatigue. Maria yawned for the third time that morning. She tried to brush it off, but Carlos noticed. "Tired, Mom?" he asked with a gentle smile. She said it was just the chilly air, but deep down she knew it wasn't just that. This kind of tired didn't come from her legs, it came from her mind. Even after a full night's sleep, she felt drained. And that kind of fatigue, especially when it keeps returning, can be the brain's way of warning us. Sometimes it's not just tiredness, it's early hippocampus damage sending quiet distress signals. Most people blame fatigue on age and leave it at that. But when tiredness comes with forgetfulness, trouble focusing, or that fuzzy feeling in the head, the so-called brain fog, it's time to take it seriously. This isn't normal aging, it's a clue. Maria started forgetting why she walked into a room. She'd misplace things, then forget she'd even touched them. These may seem like harmless slips, but when they start stacking up, they often point to cognitive decline or early Alzheimer's, long before the big signs show up. For someone like Carlos, who visits his mom every weekend, the clues were there, but hidden in plain sight. That yawn wasn't about needing coffee. It was about a brain running on low battery. When seniors begin showing signs of persistent fatigue, especially with elderly confusion or forgetfulness in elderly, families need to listen. It could be how Alzheimer's starts, not with a dramatic moment, but with small, soft hints. And it wasn't until she froze the next morning, in front of her closet, that Carlos truly realized something deeper was going on. When she froze in front of her closet, the morning started like any other. Maria stood in front of her open closet, robe tied, sunlight pouring in. But instead of reaching for her clothes, she just stood there. 5 full minutes. Carlos, visiting that weekend, walked past the room and saw her frozen, eyes scanning the hangers like they were unfamiliar shapes. "Is everything okay?" he asked. She blinked slowly, smiled weakly, and whispered, "I forgot what I came here for." That moment hit him harder than he expected. This wasn't just memory loss. It was a disconnect. When someone freezes mid-routine, especially with something they've done for decades, it's a red flag. Getting dressed isn't supposed to be a puzzle. But for seniors experiencing spatial disorientation or signs of dementia, even closets can feel confusing. Maria knew those clothes. She'd folded them, chosen them, lived in them. But in that instant, her brain couldn't guide her through a simple choice. That kind of cognitive freeze often signals deeper elderly memory decline. Not forgetfulness from aging, but a breakdown in familiar patterns. Carlos didn't say anything at first. He didn't want to scare her. But that image stayed with him. His mom standing still, lost in front of something so ordinary. It reminded him of stories he'd read online about elderly wandering, where confusion creeps in during simple tasks. What if she froze while cooking? Or at the supermarket? That was the first time he saw how real the risk was. And he started watching her more closely, which led him to something even smaller, yet even more alarming. Tiny things she used to remember without thinking. Maria used to know the TV remote by heart, which button turned up the volume, which one opened her favorite channel. But that week, she called Carlos twice just to ask how to switch to the news. "It's the blue button, remember?" he'd say gently. She'd laugh it off, but the pause before her laugh said everything. These weren't slips from a busy mind. They were subtle signs of mental decline after 60. Things that once felt automatic now required effort, and effort led to exhaustion. When the brain begins to slow down, it rarely announces itself loudly. It starts with tiny cracks in routines. Forgetting a pin, a recipe, or where the sugar usually goes. These little memory gaps, especially when repeated, can indicate early Alzheimer's or broader cognitive decline. Maria had always remembered to take her blood pressure pill at breakfast. Suddenly, she was asking, "Did I take it already?" That type of forgetfulness in elderly people often gets brushed aside, until the pattern becomes undeniable. Carlos began taking notes, just small things he saw, repeated questions, misplaced objects, odd moments of elderly confusion. He didn't want to panic, but he also didn't want to wait for something bigger to happen. He'd heard stories of seniors who got lost just blocks from home. And now he couldn't help but wonder, what if the next thing she forgot was how to get back? And that thought stayed with him, especially when he saw how tired her body was becoming. Her body felt tired, but her brain was disconnecting. Maria started complaining more often about her legs. "They feel heavy," she'd say. But it wasn't the kind of heaviness that comes after walking too long. It was a strange tiredness, like her body didn't match her mind. Some mornings she'd sit at the edge of the bed, staring at her slippers, unable to move right away. That's when Carlos started researching and found something that made him freeze. When the brain struggles to process movement, it can affect the body too. Especially with early hippocampus damage, the signals just don't fire the same way. We often forget that the brain isn't just about thoughts. It controls balance, coordination, even the rhythm of walking. When Maria's steps became slower and more hesitant, it wasn't just about aging joints. It was about the brain losing its map, spatial disorientation taking over simple paths like the hallway to the kitchen. She began dragging her feet slightly, bumping into furniture more often. These are signs of dementia we rarely associate with movement, but they speak volumes about the silent disconnect happening inside. Carlos offered to take her for a walk. She agreed, but after just a few minutes, she was winded, confused about which way they'd come from. That's when he knew this wasn't just about physical stamina. It was about her mental compass fading. When a senior gets lost during familiar routines, or feels unsure in their own living room, it's a clear warning. And Maria's next episode made that warning impossible to ignore. The sign she ignored, but her son finally noticed. It happened on a quiet Wednesday afternoon. Maria called Carlos and in a soft voice asked, "Where do I keep the extra towels?" For a second, he thought she was joking. She'd kept that linen closet in the same spot for over 20 years. But she sounded lost, and worse, a little embarrassed. That moment hit differently. It wasn't like forgetting a date or someone's name. This was her home, her space. And losing orientation there pointed to something far beyond ordinary forgetfulness in elderly people. Carlos remembered something he'd read. Seniors who start to forget locations within their own home are often showing deeper signs of dementia. This wasn't just memory loss, it was spatial disorientation, a fading mental map. And when seniors start to lose track of where things are, they often begin to wander, searching for something they already have but can't recognize. Elderly safety becomes a real concern in moments like these. What if she opened the front door next time, looking for her own bedroom? After the call, Carlos sat in silence. He wasn't angry, just heartbroken. All the little moments made sense now. The closet, the pills, the walks. He realized that she'd been dropping signs for months. Not dramatic ones, but steady, soft clues. And like many sons, he wanted to believe she was fine. But now, the signs of dementia were clear. He knew he couldn't ignore them anymore. Especially because there was one more thing Maria hadn't told anyone. Not even him. She stood in front of the fridge again that evening. Hand on the handle, eyes searching. But this time she didn't open it. She paused and whispered to herself, "What was I looking for?" It wasn't hunger. It was disconnection. And that moment, quiet, invisible to the world, was the moment her brain asked for help. So let me ask you, how many silent scenes like this are playing out in the homes of people you love, without anyone noticing? How many seniors are being brushed off with, "That's just age," when in fact, their brain is showing signs of dementia awareness? When did we start calling brain fog and mental decline after 60 normal, instead of asking why it's happening? Every forgotten name, every step taken in the wrong direction, every senior who got lost just 2 blocks from home. These aren't coincidences. They're warnings. And you can choose to see them, or pretend they're not there. But if you've watched this far, I know you care. Not just for the content, but for the clarity. For the truth that keeps memories alive. So here's what I ask. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. A daughter, a son, a friend. And subscribe, not for views but for vision. Because the next video might carry the answer that saves someone you love from slipping further into the silence. We're not here to scare you. We're here to protect you and give you back what aging tries to take.